Hello, good morning, good evening, good afternoon. Thank you for joining me today. Today we are going to continue our discussion on design. In this video, I'm going to walk through my process of how I design a portrait. And we're going to go through some of the design principles, techniques, processes, and I'll just basically go through this drawing and I will walk you through my thought processes and design process as we go.
And before we begin, if you haven't already, make sure to subscribe to my free Insiders Club. Insiders Club members get first access to these weekly live streams, and you also get access to other live events, and you get discounts on courses and programs, along with access to free lessons and other free content available only to subscribers. So all you have to do is go to www.drawwithchris.com, and there you can enter your email and you'll be good to go.
Like I mentioned in the previous video, one of the most important things we can start with is to have, really my step one is have something to say. That's 1A. 1B, and then is what do we have? So typically this is where you come to the table with a story. I always recommend that you come to the practice table with a story in mind, with an idea in mind, with a narrative in mind, with emotions. I love to draw when I'm charged with emotions, good or bad, typically bad. Comment below if you're like me. I drew my best work when I have negative emotions, when life is kind of tough. I do my best artwork. Maybe you're like me, comment below. So have something to say, have an emotion, metaphor. It can be as easy as a metaphor. And then what do we have? Basically, what does the model give us, the lighting give us, the reference give us? What are the values? What are the shapes? What do we have to work with? So today we're working from reference, so I'll quickly examine these two because this is really the beginning of the design process. Because remember, design is visual communication, so we got to have something to communicate. And I'll say that again. Composition, design, picture making is visual communication. So we have to have something to communicate. So I typically start with writing or an idea if you don't want to write. So for me, let's say, what do I have to say? For me, when I look at this, so I really don't have too strong of an emotion. I recommend if you're beginning, start with a strong emotion because they're easy to communicate. So like anger, joy, pain, love, for example, those are just strong emotions. For me, the word that comes to mind is legacy. So I'm just going to write some words that come to mind when I think about this drawing and this reference and what's on my mind right now. That's really important too, to access legacy, family, my father, honor, and memory. So I like that idea. This guy, so this is a screenshot from a YouTube channel. Grim Hustle, shout out Grim Hustle. Comment below if anybody ever seen this handsome gentleman here from Grim Hustle YouTube channel. Anyway, when I thought of this, I thought about legacy. It kind of reminds me of my father. So that's kind of the idea, honoring the family and honoring your father's memory. Honoring the family, honoring the father's memory. Sorry. So it's more of a subtle narrative today. It's more of a subtle idea, but I have something, really. See, that's the important thing. I have something that I want to communicate through a work of art. You understand? You understand why this is step one? Obviously, because the title of the YouTube video is design, not copy, right? That's the core of my philosophy, is to design instead of copying, right? Because the temptation is, oh, I see a nice reference, I have a nice model, I'm at the life drawing. Oh, I'm going to see eye copy, see nose copy, see mouth copy, see ear copy, see detail copy, hair copy, see copy, see copy, see copy. We don't want to do that. We don't want to do see copy. What we want to do is design. So for us to design, we got to have something to say. We got to have something more than the picture to say. And that's, you just saw me go through that process. So that's what my story is about. And what do we have? Part two is what do we have? What do we have? Part two is what do we have? Well, clearly we have an older gentleman, and he's kind of grizzled and he has a cool costume. Beautiful chiaroscuro lighting. You know, kind of got this lighting from the left. I like the colors also. He's lit halfway, so he looks a little bit sinister, which is kind of cool. It's kind of cool. It kind of is a metaphor for the past, so I like that. So maybe the shadow can be a metaphor for the past. I'm going to write that note here. Shadow equals the past. So half of it is in shadow, so he's lit halfway. So it's a very distinguished lighting. Typically, this is a nice way to light older men. Comment below any of you who light models, who photograph. So if you want to photograph an older man and want to make him look more distinguished, lighting them from the side, you know, you get this nice, beautiful form shadows that happen. So it's a very distinguished look, this half lighting. So I really like that. I'm going to emphasize that. And I love this outfit and I love the length of it. You notice I included a lot of collar to make him tall. So, you know, the taller he is, the longer the picture is. You know, this is a tiny sketchbook, but if this were a painting, I would make it really tall. Something like this, maybe something like this. I would put the portrait way up here. You know what I mean? Something like that. Make him really tall so that he looks, you know, bigger and longer and more of history. So, you know, when I saw this reference, I'm like, okay, I'm going to do that. So I'm going to emphasize that. So we got a lot of long lines. We have beautiful side lighting. We have a model who's an older gentleman. So he's a perfect metaphor for my father or family legacy, maybe your father, your grandfather. And that's about it. This is an example of what's called a gimme or an easy mode. When you're starting out and you're practicing design, it's good to choose things that already have very interesting stuff going on. So this is a reference, a model, or shoot that already kind of has a lot of good stuff going on. So this is easy for us to practice this stuff, okay? And I'm just going to go through the process. And as I go, if I see any design ideas, I'm going to pause as we go. So I like that idea of shadow representing the past. I like that. It's a cool metaphor. And I'm using a very thin pencil, Prismacolor. Sorry if I'm not talking. I'm going to be silent a lot. Because typically when I draw these things, I work in silence. That way I have full concentration on what I'm doing. And if I, you know, obviously if I have to talk, it diverts mental energy. And it takes away from being in the zone, you know. Just like when you're an athlete in the zone, you're fully present in the moment. Just trying to be as present as possible. So forgive me if I don't talk. It's just a way that I can get the best drawing possible. But I'll make sure to pause when I have an idea. So what you're watching here is basically just straight drawing, not so much design yet. Obviously the way I draw is naturally design heavy. You know, I was trained in LA. I'm a movie poster artist. For those of you who are new to me, I am a professional. I work in movie posters now. I'm not just a YouTube guy. I actually work, which is why I haven't made much videos lately. I've been professional for many, many years. I also teach, write books. I recently worked on Lord of the Rings poster campaign, among other titles. And part of the reason why I'm doing this is because talking about art is very fun for me. I believe the more people making beautiful art, the better the world will be. That's sort of my core life mission, is to make the world more beautiful. So if more people can make beautiful portraits, beautiful drawings, beautiful paintings, beautiful realistic things, then the world will be a better place. So that's really why I do this. I like talking about art, and I want people to make beautiful pictures because I like to look at beautiful pictures. I don't know about you. You're probably just like me if you're watching this. So that's why I do this. I wish I could do more videos and stuff, but man, being a professional artist takes a lot of time. Comment below, anybody here. Maybe you're not a professional artist. Maybe you have a full-time job. Maybe you have a family, kids, wife, kids, husband, parents to take care of. It's tough. It's tough out there, man. Being an artist is time consuming. And also the art I make takes forever. You know, if you're watching this, you're probably a realist like me, and realist art takes forever. Holy cow. Like a small drawing like this could take me anywhere from 16 to 21 hours, 28 hours, 3-4 days, maybe. Anyway, let's see what we're doing here. Now, right away, you may notice I'm making a lot of straight. That's design. That's designing with marks. Now, I do naturally draw that way, but I'm going to keep a lot of straights because straights is rigid. Rigid. Rigid is an American English word that just means straight and strong and tall, like a tree. Like a tree is rigid. And that's the feeling I want. Remember, the story I have in mind for this drawing is honoring the family and my father's memory. So, you know, the family legacy is kind of like an old tree. So straight, rigid, tall, and will always be there, standing tall and strong. So straight marks are more tall, strong, and rigid than these kind of marks, you see? These are the opposite. So I'm not going to draw this fellow with these kind of marks. So this is a much more appropriate design choice, you see? So even my mark making, especially my mark making, I use design. All right, so I got my lay-in. I use some blocky technique. The next thing I want to do is to mask the shadow. I'm just going to fill the shadow mask. Now I know this looks like very basic shadow masking, but I have an idea in mind as I'm making each stroke. Remember, I like to make each stroke count. I want to make each stroke tell my story. So in this case, I have an idea for so remember, the shadow is a metaphor for the past. The shadow is a metaphor for the past in my story. So now what I'm saying with the shadow is that your past will lift you up from adversity. So whatever you're facing in the world, the past will lift you up. Your family's legacy, your family's memory, the legacy that your family left behind will lift you up in hard times. So that's kind of the idea. And actually, as I'm doing this, I'm doing this. I know this sounds very crazy, but I'm doing this. You see, I'm lifting up like this. So it's sort of from bottom up. You see, I'm lifting up. I'm lifting up. Now, it's small. This is an insignificant design choice, but one line is insignificant, but when you add thousands of marks that have the same energy and feeling, they add up. It adds up. So that's what I'm doing here. So that's a design choice. My mark making is a conscious design choice. So I recommend you try that. I do. It's very fun. Be very deliberate with everything you do. Because remember, we're not just copying. That's the goal. My whole message is don't copy what you see, design what you see. So even the tones, don't copy the tone. Don't say, oh, I see dark tone number 8. Let me copy dark tone number 8. Oh, I see dark halftone number 6. Let me copy. No, 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 no. You want to think a little bit. Stop and think. So for me, this is more than just copying shadow. I'm actually trying to tell a story with the shadow mass, with the shape, with the value, and with the technique. You see, I'm okay if I go outside the border there. I'm okay if I go outside the border of the shadow shape that I drew, because the past affects the future in a way, sort of. The legacy of your family affects the future. So you see, it's very minor, but it's it's a start. It's a start. It's already infusing my drawing with some nice energy. So you see, it already has nice energy and flavor and emotion already. That's cool. So imagine if we keep building up energy and emotion in each mark, energy and emotion in each mark, story. Imagine if every mark I make with emotion, energy, intention. Those of you who are into those kind of things, like meditation or spiritual things, you know what I mean by intention. Intention is emotional energy applied to your physical body, to your muscles, to your brain, to your nerves. So every mark has intention, and my intention is story. So it's small and insignificant, but over time, over the course of the drawing, every mark will tell your story. Do you see? So that's why it's important to stop and look and to think about what you're doing instead of copying. Instead of saying, oh, I see dark mask, copy. I see I highlight, copy. So think. That's kind of my message. Anyway, let's get back to work here. So I'm pretty happy with that. What I'm going to do is I'm going to punch in an eye. I need to see how dark I can go. This is probably going to be pretty chiaroscuro. In fact, I may do chiaroscuro around the whole thing. I'm probably going to use graphite or charcoal powder in the background. Probably graphite to get sort of a smoky kind of look, more of a chiaroscuro look. Okay, so I went from design mode. Now we're in drawing mode. This is more drawing methodology here. I need to see a black. So I have an idea what my black is. Obviously, the eye will be the focal point. The eye will be the focal point. Maybe down here I can make a second focal point. I like to have a focal point away from the eye and the face if I can. Maybe here, here, and here. 1, 2, 3, maybe. Maybe something like that. I haven't quite decided yet, but for sure the eye will be number 1. So I'm just going to go ahead and punch it in with my blackest black. So this is a Prismacolor Premiere. So shout out Prismacolor here. Oh, and this is a Moleskine sketchbook, by the way, if you're curious. And there it is. That's pretty much my blackest black. I know the brightest bright will probably be here. I think it should be here. What do you guys think? I could put the brightest bright here. In the photo, it's here in our reference. The brightest bright is the highlight on his hair. He has blonde hair, and he has the highlight on it. So that's the brightest bright in his face. But I may put it here, like in the photo, so maybe down here. I kind of like that idea. Leave the white of the paper here. That's just what I'm thinking. I'm not quite sure yet, but that's okay. Let me develop my drawing a little bit so I can move forward with the halftones. You see, I want to get to the halftones, but I need a black so I know how dark I can go with the halftones. So this is more value control, not so much design yet. This is just drawing fundamentals here. So this is cool. You guys get to see some drawing technique. This guy kind of reminds me of my dad. If my dad was a Russian gangster, but he's not. My dad was not a Russian gangster, but he was kind of a gangster dude. He's kind of a tough gangster kind of dude. And what I'm doing is I'm trying to preserve the hatching. I kind of want you to see my hatching. That's kind of also my aesthetic. Maybe some of you watching, you've seen my drawings. You know, I do this a lot. I often make the hatching visible. To me, it looks cool. That looks pretty cool. I love the shape, the subtle. So I have a pretty nice idea about my darks, how dark I can go. Let me punch in a few more darks before I move into the halftone. I want to be pretty sure that my darks are dark enough so that when I gauge my halftones, they will look right. I notice as I'm drawing, I'm constantly getting ideas because I'm not talking, I'm working in silence, obviously, that helps too. I'm getting ideas about metaphors like, oh, this eye. This eye is in shadow and it's not going to be rendered right. It's very dark and smoky and mysterious. And that kind of reminds me of that's a metaphor. I should write this down. This is kind of fun. The eye is a metaphor for my father's past. Interesting, huh? My father's past or my family's past. Remember this piece? The story I want to tell is honoring the family and your father's memory. So my father, or all of our past relatives, there's parts of their past that we don't know. It's a bit mysterious. We don't know the full story of our parents or grandparents' past, just like me. I don't know the full story of my father's life. Definitely don't know the full story of my grandfather's life. So this is sort of like a metaphor for the mystery of my family's past. Now you may think, oh, that's just insignificant, Chris. But my point is, the reason why I stopped here is that because all of these ideas and story ideas are a result of practice, because I practice this stuff. I'm constantly thinking, how can I tell a story with my drawing? How can I tell a story with my marks? How can I tell a story with my shadow? So the more you practice this thinking, that the more you practice designing and storytelling instead of copying, the more ideas you will get. So that's why I stopped here. That's my sales pitch there again. That looks pretty good for the first pass of darks. I got my darkest dark. I kind of have an idea where my lightest light is. Now I'm ready for the halftones. Let me ghost in the halftones here. I'm just going to drop in some halftones, and I'm going to go the opposite way. I'll explain in a minute what I'm doing. So just a quick halftone pass. Notice it's a different direction than the shadow, and that's a conscious choice. That's a conscious choice. So now they're contrasting. So we have shadow mass, halftone mass, but because the technique is different, in this case, the hatching is clearly visible and they're clearly going different directions, your mind will read them as two different things, which is what I want. So now your mind will see, oh, this is clearly different than that. And that's what you want. It's light, or it's halftone, and shadow, but it's also different parts of the story. Remember, the shadow is part of my story. The shadow is part of my story. So now I reinforced to you, the viewer, hey, my shadow is different than the light. In other words, I'm trying to say something different with the light than the shadow. They're saying two different things. You will feel that. I don't have to tell you, you'll feel it as the viewer, because you will recognize like, oh, okay, those things are clearly different. So now we're doing the core shadow. So he has bounce light on the other side. And as I mold the lights, I will explain what I'm doing here a little bit. So the shadow's not dark enough. There's not enough separation now. So I do need to come back in and darken the thing. I need to see what will be dark on this side. I don't have enough contrast yet to properly work the halftones. Because really the core of it is kind of done already. We have a nice story. The reference already kind of tells the story already. So we got a good reference. We got a good shot with our model here. Okay, so now we're going to do a little bit of design work. What I want to do now is I want to sculpt the forms in his face. So I'll just quickly show you what I'm going to do and how we're going to do it. So we need this form, right? We need forms in his face, and we need that corner. We need this corner. We need the muzzle roll, right? His mouth has to feel round, so we need that muzzle rhythm. So you see I have to connect here. That's design, and rhythm is actually design. This has to connect. The chin has to connect up here, has to connect up here. This has to connect to the other eye. You see they're not quite relating properly. I need to fix that. And then we need to sculpt this cheek, make this cheek pop out. So here's what I see. Number one, we have this nice rhythm here. That's his cheekbone. It's a little bit of halftone, but I'm going to draw it down to flow this way. I'm going to make sure that these flow this way. And I'm going to try to pick them up here somehow. I got to make sure this connects over here to this one. I have to make sure these two brow ridges are lined up. I want to make the mouth pop a little bit more to make it feel a little bit more ball-like. We have to relate the chin and jaw up. We have to relate the chin up to the jaw and then the neck. And then we have to draw this corner somehow. I'm not quite sure how I'm going to do that. Okay, I'll do it with highlight. So I'm going to draw this corner with a highlight. So I'm going to design my highlight to draw this corner, which I desperately need. Those of you who have taken my classes, or maybe you got a critique from me, you know I'm obsessed with this corner. I have to have this corner, or else my life is not complete. So I'm going to do everything in my power to both communicate the box and relate the smaller forms, because that's design. Remember, design is, in a way, relationships. That's what rhythms do. So let's do that. All right, you saw my little rhythm design game plan. I broke down what I'm thinking, so I'm just going to execute now. Just execute. So number one, I need to separate this side plane. The side plane got to be a little bit darker because this is going to be the highlight right here. And I need this corner. So notice as I'm drawing, I'm thinking about that corner, that relationship. This is a bone. This is the side plane of the temple here. So I'm not just blindly copying what I see. I'm actually drawing more from my knowledge right here. I'm drawing more from knowledge. So we got pretty far there. Let's keep going. Now remember that cheek rhythm. So there's a nice flow right here. You see there's a nice flow. Doot, 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 doot. There's a nice flow right here, so I'm just going to sculpt that. And again, I'm not copying. What I'm doing is I'm designing my marks and this little tone shape to communicate what I want, which is side plane of the cheek. And now I'm going to do two things. I'm going to turn underneath and notice. So this is design. So I don't just go like that. I go, mm. See, my marks look like this. My mark will look like this. Uh, uh, Oops. Can you see it? It'll do this. It'll do this. It'll do this. So, That's designing and being conscious of your marks. So I'm going to consciously design my mark and this little tiny tone shape. Instead of copying this tone shape, I'm going to design it to describe form. You see? Boom. You see, it just looks a lot better. And then I have to come back down. So we have to finish the corner. We have to finish the corner. So I have to come back down. Most likely a little bit more tone here, yes. And then a bit more tone here, yes. Some detail, but really this looks like I'm copying tone, but I'm consciously, I know that there's a jawbone here and I need to get from here to here. I need to get from here to here and from here to here. So I need to do two things with this one little zone. So instead of copying, right, there's a lot of beautiful details there. Comment below if you're tempted to copy these details. I know I would be 10 years ago, but I know, okay, these are nice details, but I'm not going to copy what I see. I'm going to design what I see based on my knowledge of human anatomy, combined with my story that I want to tell to make this jawbone read properly. Here we go. Here we go. That's the ticket, my friends. That's the core message of today, is don't just blindly copy the details. Think about how you can use the details to say whatever you want to say. And right now I want to say like 5 different things at once. So I have to be very deliberate. Desperately trying to draw the jawbone. He doesn't have a clear jawbone, so I have to suggest it. That takes some skill. Trying to draw the planes of the lips and chin. I'm not copying details. I'm trying to describe a plane. So I'm thinking very planar here. So you kind of have to see the planes. It helps you have to see the planes. So again, this is a lot of drawing fundamentals here that you may not understand if you're watching this. You may not be there yet. You may not understand how to sculpt properly because your knowledge is not quite there. But it does help. It does help a lot. Anatomy is not super important, but it helps a lot. It helps a lot. So as I make these marks, I'm also doing the same thing. So right now we have a muzzle, his muzzle, right? Right now we have a muzzle, his mouth, right? His nose is here. I need this to feel like a ball. So, I don't just randomly go like that. I'm going like this, you see? Everything is ball, 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 ball. You see the direction I'm doing? That's not an accident. That is a conscious choice. At the top, I go like this. So you see? Everything is conscious. You see? That's the ticket, my friends. That's the ticket. Conscious, conscious, deliberate, always thinking before you make a mark, thinking ahead as much as you can. That way we're not just blindly copying, we're being designers here. Okay, so I do need some more value. Right now, it's not dark enough. The halftones aren't reading properly because the shadow mask is not dark enough. So I really need to punch in my shadow right now. Should I do that now? I don't know if I have enough time. How much time? We don't have enough time. But that's what I would do next. And this is a good stopping point here. We're basically done with this first pass. Now we just have to further refine what we're doing. You see, we had nice separation before between light and shadow. Now they're too close together, which just means I need to make my shadow darker. That's all it means, and it's way too bright. You see, that's why this helps a lot. Without this dark mass, I wouldn't be able to judge these properly. Because I have this dark mass, my black is black, I know I need to go way darker. You see? That's helping me a lot. And let's see if there's any last design choices we can make here. Right now, my main concern is the value relationships aren't where they should be, underdeveloped, so I have to address that pretty quickly. I can't really think of anything. I think this would be a good stopping point here. Here looks pretty good. I really need to make a value adjustment. Basically, I need to darken the shadow and then reevaluate where I'm at. I can't really move forward until this is properly dark enough, and even down here. Notice this isn't dark enough either. This needs to be a lot darker so I can properly see the contrast of dark, mid-tone, and half-tone, and then the highlight, which will probably be here. So I think that's a good stopping point. One last thing before I go. Notice there's lots of shadows. But I don't make a really, like a hard, aggressive mark in the shadow. I will need to go darker, but I will keep the mark relatively soft. So like this, for example. This is the accent in this neck. I don't go like that with a hard edge. What I do is I work it up slowly, and then I make the mark kind of fuzzy. So you see I can build up the value, and it doesn't stay very sharp. So that's one way to design in the shadow without drawing detail, because I definitely don't want to draw detail in the shadow. I want the shadow to kind of sink back into space. So I don't want to draw too much detail, so I need to suggest detail in the shadow. And one way to do that is by being conscious of the sharpness and hardness of your marks. If your marks are too hard in the shadow, they will flatten your shadow because they will come forward. We don't want that. I want everything to kind of be hazy and go into the background. And that's really about it, my friends. Thank you for joining me today. I really appreciate you. If you like this video, you like my work, I have a lot of free resources on my website, www.drawwithchris.com. You can sign up for my free email newsletter. So right now I'm writing about one newsletter a week, and you get some very deep lessons, high-level insights, absolutely free. Go to drawwithchris.com, and references as well. Lots of cool free resources.